Book 7, Chapter 9. "You are safe here, young Englishman," said Zanoni, motioning Glyndon to a seat. "Fortunate for you that I come on your track at last. Far happier had it been if we had never met. Yet, even in these last hours of my fate, I rejoice to look once more upon the face of that ominous and mysterious being to whom I can ascribe all the sufferings I have known. Here, then, thou shalt not palter with or elude me. Here, before we part, thou shalt unravel to me the dark enigma, if not of thy life, of my own." "Hast thou suffered, poor neophyte?" said Zanoni, pityingly. "Yes, I see it on thy brow. But wherefore wouldst thou blame me? Did I not warn thee against the whispers of thy spirit? Did I not warn thee to forbear? Did I not tell thee that the ordeal was one of awful hazard and tremendous fears? Nay, did I not offer to resign to thee the heart that was mighty enough, while mine, Glyndon, to content me? Was it not thine own daring and resolute choice to brave the initiation? Of thine own free will didst thou make Mejnour thy master, and his lore thy study. But whence came the irresistible desires of that wild and unholy knowledge? I knew them not till thine evil eye fell upon me, and I was drawn into the magic atmosphere of thy being." "Thou errest. The desires were in thee, and whether in one direction or the other would have forced their way. Man, thou askest me the enigma of thy fate and my own. Look round all being. Is there not mystery everywhere? Can thine eye trace the ripening of the grain beneath the earth? In the moral and the physical world alike lie dark portents far more wondrous than the powers thou wouldst ascribe to me." "Dost thou disown those powers? Dost thou confess thyself an impostor? Or wilt thou dare to tell me that thou art indeed sold to the evil one, a magician whose familiar has haunted me night and day?" "It matters not what I am," returned Zanoni. "It matters only whether I can aid thee to exorcise thy dismal phantom, and return once more to the wholesome air of this common life. Something, however, will I tell thee, not to vindicate myself, but the heaven and the nature that thy doubts malign." Zanoni paused a moment, and resumed with a slight smile. "In thy younger days thou hast doubtless read with delight the great Christian poet, whose muse, like the morning it celebrated, came to earth, crowned with flowers, culled in paradise. No spirit was more imbued with the nightly superstitions of the time, and surely the poet of Jerusalem hath sufficiently to satisfy even the inquisitor he consulted, execrated all the practitioners of the unlawful spells invoked. Pur isforzar cogito e flegitonte. But in his sorrows and his wrongs, in the prison of his madhouse, know you not that Tasso himself found his solace, his escape, in the recognition of a holy and spiritual theurgia, of a magic that could summon the angel or the good genius, not the fiend? And do you not remember how he, deeply versed as he was for his age in the mysteries of the nobler Platonism, which hints at the secrets of all the starry brotherhoods, from the Chaldean to the later Rosicrucian, discriminates in his lovely verse between the black art of his Meno and the glorious lore of the enchanter who counsels and guides upon their errand the champions of the Holy Land? His, not the charms wrought by the aid of the Stygian rebels, but the perception of the secret powers of the fountain and the herb, the arcana of the unknown nature and the various motions of the stars. His, the holy haunts of Lebanon and Carmel. Beneath his feet he saw the clouds, the snows, the hues of iris, the generations of rains and dews. Did the Christian hermit who converted that enchanter, no fabulous being, but the type of all spirit that would aspire through nature up to God, command him to lay aside these sublime studies, le solita arte e l'uso mio. No, but to cherish and direct them to worthy ends. And in this grand conception of the poet lies the secret of the true theurgia, which startles your ignorance in a more learned day with puerile apprehensions and the nightmares of a sick man's dreams. Again Zanoni paused, and again resumed. In ages far remote, of a civilization far different from that which now merges the individual in the state, there existed men of ardent minds and an intense desire of knowledge. In the mighty and solemn kingdoms in which they dwelt, there were no turbulent and earthly channels to work off the fever of their minds. Set in the antique mold of castes through which no intellect could pierce, no valor could force its way, the thirst for wisdom alone reigned in the hearts of those who received its study as a heritage from sire to son. Hence, even in your imperfect records of the progress of human knowledge, you find that, in the earliest ages, philosophy descended not to the business and homes of men. It dwelt amidst the wonders of the loftier creation. It sought to analyze the formation of matter, the essentials of the prevailing soul, to read the mysteries of the starry orbs, to dive into those depths of nature in which Zoroaster is said by the schoolmen first to have discovered the arts which your ignorance classes under the name of magic. In such an age, then, arose some men who, amidst the vanities and delusions of their class, imagined that they detected gleams of a brighter and steadier lore. They fancied an affinity existing among all the works of nature, and that in the lowliest lay the secret attraction that might conduct them upward to the loftiest. Centuries passed, and lives were wasted in these discoveries, but step after step was chronicled and marked, and became the guide to the few who alone had the hereditary privilege to track their path. At last, from this dimness, upon some eyes the light broke. But think not, young visionary, that to those who nursed unholy thoughts, over whom the origin of evil held the sway, that dawning was vouchsafed. It could be given then, as now, only to the purest ecstasies of imagination and intellect, undistracted by the cares of a vulgar life, or the appetites of the common clay. Far from descending to the assistance of a fiend, theirs was but the august ambition to approach nearer to the fount of good. The more they emancipated themselves from this limbo of the planets, the more they were penetrated by the splendor and beneficence of God. And if they sought, and at last discovered, how to the eye of the spirit all the subtler modifications of being and of matter might be made apparent, if they discovered how, for the wings of the spirit, all space might be annihilated, and while the body stood heavy and solid here, as a deserted tomb, the freed idea might wander from star to star, if such discoveries became in truth their own, the sublimest luxury of their knowledge was but this, to wonder, to venerate, and adore. For, as one not unlearned in these high matters has expressed it, there is a principle of the soul superior to all external nature, and through this principle we are capable of surpassing the order and systems of the world, and participating the immortal life and the energy of the sublime celestials. When the soul is elevated to natures above itself, it deserts the order to which it is awhile compelled, and by a religious magnetism is attracted to another and a loftier, with which it blends and mingles. Grant, then, that such beings found at last the secret to arrest death, to fascinate danger and the foe, to walk the revolutions of the earth unharmed. Think you that this life could teach them other desire than to yearn the more for the immortal, and to fit their intellect the better for the higher being to which they might, when time and death exist no longer, be transferred? Away with your gloomy fantasies of sorcerer and demon. The soul can aspire only to the light. And even the error of our lofty knowledge was but the forgetfulness of the weakness, the passions, and the bonds, which the death we so vainly conquered only can purge away. This address was so different from what Glyndon had anticipated that he remained for some moments speechless, and at length faltered out, "But why, then, to me?"
"Why,"
added Zanoni,
"why to thee have been only the penance and the terror, the threshold and the phantom. Vain man, look to the commonest elements of the common learning. Can every tyro at his mere wish and will become the master? Can the student, when he has bought his Euclid, become a Newton? Can the youth whom the muses haunt say, 'I will equal Homer'? Yea, can yon pale tyrant, with all the parchment laws of 100 system-shapers, and the pikes of his dauntless multitude, carve at his will a constitution not more vicious than the one which the madness of a mob could overthrow? When, in that far time to which I have referred, the student aspired to the heights to which thou wouldst have sprung at a single bound, he was trained from his very cradle to a career he was to run. The internal and the outward nature were made clear to his eyes, year after year, as they opened on the day. He was not admitted to the practical initiation till not one earthly wish chained that sublimest faculty which you call the imagination, one carnal desire clouded the penetrative essence that you call the intellect. And even then, and at the best, how few attained to the last mystery! Happier, inasmuch as they attained the earlier to the holy glories for which death is the heavenliest gate." Zanoni paused, and a shade of thought and sorrow darkened his celestial beauty. "And are there indeed others besides thee and Mejnour who lay claim to thine attributes and have attained to thy secrets?" "Others there have been before us,
but we two now are alone on earth." "Impostor! Thou betrayest thyself. If they could conquer death, why live they not yet?"
"Child of a day,"
answered Zanoni mournfully,
"have I not told thee the error of our knowledge was the forgetfulness of the desires and passions, which the spirit never can wholly and permanently conquer while this matter cloaks it? Canst thou think that it is no sorrow either to reject all human ties, all friendship, and all love, or to see, day after day, friendship and love wither from our life, as blossoms from the stem? Canst thou wonder how, with the power to live while the world should last, ere even our ordinary date be finished, we yet may prefer to die? Wonder rather that there are two who have clung so faithfully to earth. Me, I confess, that earth can enamor yet. Attaining to the last secret while youth was in its bloom, youth still colors all around me with its own luxuriant beauty. To me, yet to breathe is to enjoy. The freshness has not faded from the face of nature, and not an herb in which I can discover a new charm, an undetected wonder. As with my youth, so with Mejnour's age. He will tell you that life to him is but a power to examine, and not till he has exhausted all the marvels which the Creator has sown on earth would he desire new habitations for the renewed spirit to explore. We are the types of two essences of what is imperishable, art that enjoys, and science that contemplates. And now that thou mayest be contented that the secrets are not vouchsafed to thee, learn that so utterly must the idea detach itself from what makes up the occupation and excitement of men, so must it be void of whatever would covet, or love, or hate, that for the ambitious man, for the lover, the hater, the power avails not. And I, at last, bound and blinded by the most common of household ties,
I, darkened and helpless, adjure thee, the baffled and discontented. I adjure thee to direct, to guide me. Where are they? Oh, tell me, speak, my wife, my child. Silent. Oh, thou knowest now that I am no sorcerer, no enemy. I cannot give thee what thy faculties deny. I cannot achieve what the passionless Mejnour failed to accomplish. But I can give thee the next best boon, perhaps the fairest. I can reconcile thee to the daily world, and place peace between thy conscience and thyself. Wilt thou promise? By their sweet lives, I promise. Glyndon looked and believed. He whispered the address to the house whither his fatal step already had brought woe and doom. Bless thee for this, exclaimed Zanoni passionately, and thou shalt be blessed. What, couldst thou not perceive that at the entrance to all the grander worlds dwell the race that intimidate and awe? Who in thy daily world ever left the old regions of custom and prescription, and felt not the first seizure of the shapeless and nameless fear? Everywhere around thee, where men aspire and labor, though they see it not, in the closet of the sage, in the council of the demagogue, in the camp of the warrior, everywhere cowers and darkens the unutterable horror. But there, where thou hast ventured, alone is the phantom visible, and never will it cease to haunt, till thou canst pass to the infinite as the seraph, or return to the familiar as a child. But answer me this: when, seeking to adhere to some calm resolve of virtue, the phantom hath stalked suddenly to thy side, when its voice hath whispered thee despair, when its ghastly eyes would scare thee back to those scenes of earthly craft and riotous excitement, from which, as it leaves thee to worse foes to the soul, its presence is ever absent, hast thou never bravely resisted the spectre and thine own horror? Hast thou never said, come what may, to virtue I will cling? Alas, answered Glyndon, only of late have I dared to do so. And thou hast felt then that the phantom grew more dim and its power more faint. It is true. Rejoice, then, thou hast overcome the true terror and mystery of the ordeal. Resolve is the first success. Rejoice, for the exorcism is sure. Thou art not of those who, denying a life to come, are the victims of the inexorable horror. Oh, when shall men learn at last that if the great religion inculcates so rigidly the necessity of faith, it is not alone that faith leads to the world to be, but that without faith there is no excellence in this, faith in something wiser, happier, diviner than we see on earth. The artist calls it the ideal, the priest, faith. The ideal and faith are one and the same. Return, O wanderer, return. Feel what beauty and holiness dwell in the customary and the old. Back to thy gateway glide, thou horror, and calm on the childlike heart smile again, O azure heaven, with thy night and thy morning star but as one, though under its double name of memory and hope. As he thus spoke, Zanoni laid his hand gently on the burning temples of his excited and wondering listener, and presently a sort of trance came over him. He imagined that he was returned to the home of his infancy, that he was in a small chamber where, over his early slumbers, his mother had watched and prayed. There it was, visible, palpable, solitary, unaltered. In the recess, the homely bed. On the walls, the shelves filled with holy books. The very easel on which he had first sought to call the ideal to the canvas, dust-covered, broken, in the corner. Below the window lay the old churchyard.
He saw it green in the distance, the sun glancing through the yew trees. He saw the tomb where father and mother lay united, and the spire pointing up to heaven, the symbol of the hopes of those who consigned the ashes to the dust. In his ear rang the bells, pealing as on a Sabbath day. Far fled all the visions of anxiety and awe that had haunted and convulsed. Youth, boyhood, childhood came back to him with innocent desires and hopes. He thought he fell upon his knees to pray. He woke in delicious tears. He felt that the phantom was fled forever. He looked round. Zanoni was gone. On the table lay these lines, the ink yet wet. I will find ways and means for thy escape. At nightfall, as the clock strikes 9, a boat shall wait thee on the river before this house. The boatman will guide thee to a retreat where thou mayest rest in safety till the reign of terror, which is near its close, be past. Think no more of the sensual love that lured and well nigh lost thee. It betrayed and would have destroyed. Thou wilt regain thy land in safety, long years yet spared to thee to muse over the past and to redeem it. For thy future be thy dream thy guide, and thy tears thy baptism. The Englishmen obeyed the injunctions of the letter and found their truth.